In this video, I'm going to show you how to take a lick and really own it everywhere on the fretboard using the CAGED system. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard of the CAGED system. Some of you use it already. It's one of the best first steps for really unlocking the fretboard. In this lesson, I'm going to show you one of the better ways to actually use the CAGED system. A lot of my students know about the CAGED system. They might understand all the shapes, but they don't have a lot of practice in being creative with the CAGED system or using it as a practice tool to really unlock the neck. Hopefully this lesson will help you out. Free tab for this lesson along with notation is down below. Just go check out the link. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick a lick and we're going to put it through its paces using these shapes. I'm going to pick a lick that most of us have at least heard before, if not played, and it's just a common G run out of an open G chord shape. So this is what the lick sounds like. So that's the lick. So our first step for really moving this lick around and getting to know it is we have to analyze it. We have to know what we're playing. How do all these notes sound against the chord that we're playing over? What is their role against this chord? So first thing you need to do is you need to make sure you can see the major scale overlap or weave its way through the CAGED shape. So that's what I'm going to do first. Is I have my G chord shape here, and this isn't movable yet, but it will be soon. And I'm going to play the major scale through this shape. Root, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Root, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Root. So now I have my scale moving through the shape. Now I can begin to analyze it. So I started on a root. I went to a 2. I had this chromatic connection between the 2 and the 3. That's a flat 3. To a 3. Then I went to a 5. Then a 6. Back to a 5, and landed on a higher root. So now I know what the roles are of each of these notes against that chord. If that's a bit of a blind spot for you, if you're not comfortable seeing the major scale weave through each one of these CAGED shapes, then you're kind of only, really getting half out of what you can get out of the CAGED system. Learning the shapes and how they connect to each other, that's a big part of it, obviously. But seeing common scales like the major scale, the Mixolydian scale, major arpeggio, seeing triad inversions, fifth chords, all that stuff overlap or weave their way through the CAGED shapes is really the other half of it, and it's really important. If that's something you're not comfortable with, I did put out a course called CAGED Connections, which is a great resource guide for all that information, and I'll put that link down below also. So now I have my lick. Let me see if I could play this anywhere else out of this shape. So I have another root here. Root 2, little chromatic connection to the 3, 5, 6, 5, root. So I have this in 2 different registers. Great, so now I have 2 different places to play that lick out of that shape. Let's move this up the neck. So this was a G shape, moving through the CAGED system. C-A-G-E shape is going to be my next shape. So I have an E-shaped G chord. I want to be able to see the major scale move through it. Going through that, I want to make sure if you're not comfortable doing this, say all the scale degree numbers as you're practicing that. That's something I talk about in that course too. So now that I've seen the scale move through it, I know where everything is. I could start to find these same notes out of this shape. Root, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 5, root. So now I have this same lick, but in a different position. Let's see if I could play it in another register, starting on this root. Root, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 5, root. So I have 2 registers or 2 octaves to play it out of the E-shaped G chord. Let's keep on going. Let's go out of the D shape now. E shape to D shape. There's my E shape or a D shape G chord. Here's my root, visualizing the scale through it. I have the G, which is my root, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 5, root. I could have also done that root, 2, flat 3, and drag up for the 3, 5, 6, 5, root. Now I have all these notes down here I haven't messed with. Can't really play an octave that lick starting on this low G because that's out of a different shape, different position. But I'm going to apply something called octave displacement. And this is a really great way for troubleshooting a lick to get it to fit in a position or to just get more variations out of a lick that you've already been playing forever. It's a really simple concept to get your head around. Basically, it means you could take any one note of a lick or any grouping of notes from a lick and put them up an octave or down an octave. And it will change the way the lick sounds without you actually changing any of the notes of the lick. So I'm going to start on this root, and then I'm going to play the rest of this lick down an octave. So root, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 5, root. So I have it there, and then I have it here. Again, 2 places out of the D-shaped G chord. Moving up, I have a C-shaped G chord. There's my root. I know the scale weaving through it. There's the lick. Root, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 5, root. I really can't play that lick anywhere else without it sounding super different. I could add the octave displacement and get something that's a really cool lick, but it would be a pretty big departure for, at least for this lesson. Moving up to an A shape. Here's my root, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 5, root. Let's see if I could play it in the other octave. Root, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 5. I could reach up to the next position and play that high octave up there, or I could use octave displacement again and play that particular note down an octave. And I get same notes, but a different sounding lick. Just by changing the octave that note happens in. All right, let's move it up again and play our G-shaped G chord. So this is the same thing we did down here using the open strings, but now it's actually a CAGED shape. It's a movable shape. Here's my G chord. I'm visualizing that. I'm visualizing the major scale, move through it, and then I'm going to play this lick. Root, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 5, root. Next octave, starting with the root. Root, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 5, root. So, look how much space we've covered here on the fretboard. We went from open position all the way up here to 15th fret. So now we know this lick covering this much territory on the fretboard. We've also learned this lick in, let's see how many places. 2 places here, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we've now learned 11 different ways to play that lick across this much of the fretboard. This is a great first step for really learning a lick. And the CAGED system was a huge help for us being able to see it everywhere on the neck here. Let's take this a step further. So let's do this over a 1-4-5 progression and start to transpose this lick so we could play it in some other keys or over other chord changes in a progression. So I'm going to start with an E-shaped G chord. And I'm going to look for my closest 4 and 5 chords. In the key of G, that means that's going to be a C and a D chord. C being the 4 chord, D being the 5 chord. So closest C chord I could play using the CAGED system would be an A-shaped C chord. Closest 5 chord or D chord I could play in this position would be a C-shaped D chord. So now I have a 1, 4, 5 progression here, all in one position. So just knowing my CAGED system and being able to go to the closest shape, So able to play that all in one place. And you could repeat that and play that in 5 different positions across the neck. It's another thing I cover in that CAGED connections course. So this is great. We have one position. Now let's start to learn our lick for these different shapes in this one position. So we already know it out of the E shape. We know we could play it in another octave there. And we've already played it for the A shape up here when we're in G. So we could just do everything exactly the same, but we're going to play it down here and it's going to sound in C. So now we've transposed it, but we used all the same fingerings. So really efficient. For this shape, the C shape D chord, we've already done this too, up here in G. I'm going to do the exact same thing down here, and it's going to sound in D. So now we have that lick in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different places that we could play it and transposing it over a 1, 4, 5 progression. So now let's take what we've done here for the G, C, and D chord in this one position and be creative with it. I'm going to solo over a track in G using a 1, 4, and 5 chord, G, C, D. And I'm going to try to really use this lick a lot. So I'm going to overuse it at first, right? Any new idea that I'm trying to get in my hands or see what it's capable of, I'm overusing. I'm being pretty heavy-handed with it. And then when you get to that point where you really fill out all the different ways it could work and all the different variations you can add to it, then you could start to pull back and use a little bit more restraint and pick when you're going to use it and how. But with any new idea, you kind of have to overuse it at first. So I'm going to add a couple little variations to help me connect, say, this octave to this octave, or say this lick in G to this lick in C. And I'm going to give you 2 that you can apply to any lick to get more ideas out of them. One is to use repetition. So any note, any grouping of notes, you can repeat. So there I went between the 3 and the 5. And I got a variation on the lick. I could have done it between the 6 and root. I could have done it with a single note. I could do it with a grouping of 3 notes. I'll go from 5, 6, root, and repeat that. So another way that you could grow a lick or an idea is to kind of approximate the lick backwards. So here's our G run ascending, how we first learned it. Root, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 5, root. Backwards, that would be root, 5, 6, 5, 3, flat 3, 2, root. And I could add in any repetition with that, and I could also kind of approximate it. I don't have to play it note for note. I could change it up a little bit here and there, and it's always going to sound connected to the original idea. All right, so now let me bring up a track, and I'm going to play this over the track. See how many places you could pick out me using the lick ascending, adding in repetition, or playing it backwards. Keep in mind, I'm trying to really overuse this a lot because I really want to get it in my hands and get a feel for it in this position, connecting from 1 chord to 4 chord to 5 chord and back to 1 chord. All right, so everything that I've just done in this one position, I'm just going to rinse and repeat, and I'm going to do that for the next 4 positions in G. And by doing that, I get really great practice on playing this lick over 5 different shapes in 3 different keys and in 5 different positions. That's going to give me a lot of command over this lick in the key of G. Let everything I've showed you here be a roadmap for you. Pick one of your favorite licks, put it through the paces that I just showed you in this video. This is a great way to actually use the CAGED system. So if you're new to the CAGED system, or maybe after watching this video, you realize you have some gaps or some blind spots with using the CAGED system, definitely go check out my CAGED Connections course. I'll put the link to that down below. That's a great resource guide, like I said, for seeing your scales, arpeggios, triads, seeing all those things overlapping or weaving their way through the CAGED shapes. Remember, you get free tab and notation. That link is also down below. If you want to check out my courses, lessons, masterclasses, or jam tracks, go check out my teaching website, theinspiredguitarist.com. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in another video.